All right, boom. We're live.
We are live.
That is nice. And you're in a different place than you normally are.
I thought I changed the background a little bit. You'll find me in an apartment, at a home, in a pool house in the state of Washington, at my brother's attic or sitting room.
It works at the end of the day. It works. And why are you there?
So I am here because my brother and his soon-to-be wife will actually be getting married this Saturday.
That is outstanding. Now, I would ask you what you're going to get them, but I don't think that they're probably watching right next to you. So let's leave that for a surprise for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I know what I would want. Tesla truck.
That's it.
Tesla truck. Just
That's it, huh? Yeah.
60, 70 grand. Just drop it. You got it, right?
Yeah, I noticed you put your name on that list when they were saying, "Hey, if you want one of the upcoming Tesla trucks, go ahead and sign up for was it $50 or $100 that you had to put down on that?"
Smartest marketing move ever by Tesla. They had millions of people give them $100, instant influx into their system. Even if they let it sit in a bank account, it's going to grow interest. They made mad money. Super smart by Elon Musk and his team. And then I don't even know if I'm going to buy one because they probably won't be ready for 2 or 3 years. So we'll see. We'll see. So it's all good. So I am from the great state of New Hampshire, live free or die. You are in the state of Washington, which is
Yes.
the home of Lewis and Clark, or where they finished their journey, I'm assuming, because if my history serves me correct, I believe it was Washington, but I'm going to say it
Yeah.
is. I'm going to say it is. That's fact. Mark it down. It's done. Boom. All right.
And if
So
it's not, let us know.
if it's not, yes, put in the comments that we are completely incorrect and my Florida education served me poorly. So real quick, let's do the JAG official.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at this episode. Special guest we have for you today. But before we get started, please know that the views presented herein are those of individual speakers and do not necessarily represent the official position of DoD, the Department of the World's Greatest Navy, or any commander unit with the World's Greatest Navy.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And if you are following along at home or any of these other places, please give us a comment about where you're from, things along those lines. Give us some inspirational words, some items like that. And when you hear something you like, drop a boom, drop it, drop the boom. Go up and do the little alerts, the bells and the whistles, which DC1 knows how to tell you to do.
So yes, please do. Yes. Just like Master Chief Rodney had mentioned, if you're tuning in with us, thank you for tuning in with us, but we'd love to hear from where you are located or which, because we are on Facebook and YouTube, let us know where you're at and tuning in. We already see NCU1 Limon, thank you for tuning in. We know you're in Florida, as well as our deputy, Nowakowski. Thank you, sir, for tuning in. It's great to see you here online.
I wonder if he's in the great state of California, down in San Diego right now, or if he's traveling the world doing what he does.
Big things. Yeah.
Always interesting to find out where people are at that moment, like you're in Washington. And I have not done the show outside of my house yet, but it's going to happen one day. I promise you this. All right. So we do have a big guest for today. One we've been trying to nail down for a while.
Yes.
At least a month and a half. And one that I think can bring a lot to the show in regards to leadership. And that is none other than Admiral. I guess we should do it officially. Rear Admiral Pete Garvin, commander of NETSI, right? Big time. And I think when we had Admiral Nowakowski on, it was Admiral Kozat at that point. So they've done a turnover here recently. So new shoes, new office down in Pensacola. They think pretty sure everybody made it safe there, I hope. And we'll talk about that little when we bring him up. But
yes,
Becky Garvin is on. I wonder where she's from. Florida. That's interesting. I wonder if she's any relation to our special guest. All right. So we got INTAG Red River. We got INTAG Miami. Lewis and Clark. Commander Stockman. Great.
Oregon.
Been very good. Worked very well with us. They finished their journey. Astoria, Oregon.
Not Washington. Kind of close by. Close.
Stone's throw.
Yes.
We'll say that. All right. So are you ready, DC1?
I'm ready. And I think our viewers are ready too.
Oh, we got to set a hook for later. Don't forget the YouTube etiquette and the Facebook etiquette. Hook, listen later. Big announcements of 2 sets, and then maybe some others. We'll see. But definitely stay tuned through all of it. So without further ado, we are really happy and honored to have Admiral Pete Garvin. So I'm going to click the button. Boom. It's magic. See? Magic. Admiral, how you doing, sir?
I could not be better, Master Chief. It's great to see you, and you as well, DC-1.
Well, thank you so much for coming on board and sharing some of your knowledge with us. And real quick, do you know a Becky Garvin?
I do, in fact. My, I would say, greatest cheerleader and probably staunchest critic, in a good way. So that's my mother. She's down in Gainesville, Florida. So hi, Mom.
Oh,
hi,
nice.
Mom.
She is on. So that is outstanding. Mom's watching. I think my mother watches afterwards, and I put her to sleep. I think that's she starts watching and helps her go to sleep. But hopefully that won't happen today while we're doing this. So, sir, we did just have the hurricane come through Pensacola. How is everybody? How is everything down there, sir?
Yeah, no. So Sally was not predicted to come here, and then sort of in the last moment, she did that hard right turn and really gave us a little bit of a test of our resiliency and our strength. And I'll tell you, so lots of trees down. In fact, there's teams outside. Apologies if you hear the chainsaws, and lots of flooding. Power went out for about 48 hours. Some folks on base still don't have power because of the amount of trees that came down on the wires. But I will tell you, thankfully, no one was hurt. So, and I really am impressed with the way teams have come together. We've got folks from Naval Air Station Jacksonville, all over the country. We've got power teams. We've got a CB battalion on base. And it's really impressive. It's no surprise that our shipmates come together in time of crisis and pull through. And we're backing up on step and working through each of the little parts, that making sure our families are safe, making sure that the services come back on, and getting about the business of the day. So thank you for asking. Sally was a challenge, but you'd be very proud to know that your shipmates met the challenge and continue to flourish.
Outstanding, sir. I think that's one of the best things we could say about the Navy and the military in general is when faced with the adversity, the rise above. And we saw that with the Bonhomme Richard. We see that down in Pensacola. And really any disaster that the Navy has been presented with, we've come through very, very well at the end of the day.
Without a doubt.
So, all right, DC-1, are you ready to get some questions out here to the Admiral?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, sir. Thank you again for being here. The very first question I have for you is, over your career in the Navy, have you ever had to change your leadership style? And if you have, just talk us through that a little bit, sir.
Well, I think absolutely. And I think that's true of any naval leader. And when I say leader, I view everyone from E1 to O10 as leaders in their own right, different scopes, span, etc. But your leadership must evolve as your character, as your competence, as your being evolves moving forward. And it's rather interesting to sort of retrospectively look back upon your leadership style when you first started out and what it's evolved to. And I'd like to think that in many cases, it's refined as you move forward. So it necessarily changes. One of the big things that I noticed going from 06 command into 07 and now 08 is the tuning must be much more fine on the dial. So you have to be very careful about how you say things, what you say, so that you don't unnecessarily get folks running off one direction or another direction, or just a statement might become tasking if you're not paying attention. And a word taken out of context might feel like an admonishment when it was really not meant as such. So it's just an important feature of knowing the magnitude of what you're saying and to whom your audience, to whom you're speaking in your audience, and just be thoughtful in how you apply the different tenets of leadership. And I think it just requires you to keep stepping up your game, and we should always wake up every morning and keep trying to do that. I don't think it's a destination. I think leadership in development is always a journey, and it's one that won't end. So I think you absolutely have to adjust your leadership style. There's some fundamentals that absolutely apply here, fundamentals like caring for your shipmates, caring for yourself, caring for your family, understanding the why of what you're doing, and make sure that those in your organization absolutely understand the why of everything, such that they are not necessarily going, what are you doing this for? And is this just executive fiat, or is there a mission here? And if you can empower and influence and inspire by giving folks the why, that's really, really powerful. Anyhow, I'll stop there because I will wander all over the battlefield if you let me.
No, it's good, and I do really like the one thing you said, sir, which was sometimes that simple word or statement can end up being tasking or an admonishment when it's not meant to be. And I think, unfortunately, we all have done that at some point in our career as we grew and developed into that role and that leadership responsibility, where we said something that was either taking as a tasking or as admonishment and really not meant to be there. And then you have to backtrack a little bit, and that's can sometimes create a tenuous situation. So DC-1, we have a guy named Jason Billman who says tiger,
Yes.
tiger. Do we know what that means, Admiral? I mean, sir, what is...
Absolutely. Tiger, tiger. So Jason Billman and I had the opportunity to fly together in a previous life. And he went off to recruiting, and he's now back in recruiting. So that's another beautiful thing about the Navy is the number of intersections and the number of great shipmates you meet along the way, and lives and experiences you share together. He's just a fantastic shipmate out there in Tennessee, if I have my geography correct, unless he's moved on me. But again, that's one of the reasons I stayed in the Navy, to be frank. A question you didn't ask, but a question that might be worth answering is, it certainly wasn't the hours of the paycheck. It is all about the young men and women we get to serve alongside, and the nobility of the cause. And Jason Billman's a great example of a fantastic shipmate. And I could go through a list, probably more time than we have, of folks that just bring a smile to my face when I think of them and the experiences we shared.
That's good. So Jason Billman, welcome to the show. Thank you for the tiger reference. All right, sir. How long have you been in the Navy?
Well, the stock Naval Academy answer is all me bloomin' life, but in my case, it's just over 31 years.
31 years. So what has been that single most challenging leadership, challenge you've been presented with over your career?
Well, that's a tough one because honestly, every day comes with challenges, different magnitudes, different vectors, different responses required. There's not any one single one that I'd point to that there was some cathartic moment where it just absolutely, stymied me. But I will tell you, as an 05 commander, my very first captain's mast that I had, not XOI, because obviously I was an XO before I became a CO, but the gravity of it all and the moral obligation of it all really kind of came, to the forefront of my mind, and how I handled that discussion, that unfortunate circumstance that must be taken care of, and understanding that on the other side of the table is another human being who's perhaps made a tragic or even just a simple mistake, but understanding that they are still your shipmate and they are still your responsibility and your sailor, and how you work through that. You still have to hold folks accountable, but as folks have heard me say, I believe in accountability, but I also believe in redemption. So that's probably one of the turning points in my leadership journey as a young 05 commander back, I think it was 2007 and 8.
I've always wondered how hard and difficult that decision is, knowing that the sailor made a mistake, and knowing that you do have to pass judgment on that. It cannot be an easy decision as a human being or as a naval officer. And I've always questioned what that does internally to a human. So could you talk a little bit about like some of the internal battles you may have had?
Well, I think if you don't have any feeling there, either you're not putting enough of yourself into it or you're not human. I think everybody feels something there, and I'm sort of a people person, and I got to tell you, it tears me up every single time I had to do it. Thankfully, not very often, but you have to do it. It's your obligation to the Navy, to good order and discipline. But that doesn't mean you have to be crass about it or demeaning about it. You can still get the point across without doing that. And I will tell you, not that this is a leadership lesson for COs and XOs, although I do enjoy working with that class when I get the chance. It's really about the game plan that you and the CMC and the XO have going into the mast, because it's not just about talking to that shipmate, but also what are you saying to the squadron, and what are you saying to other shipmates that might be on the edge of making a bad decision. And so you really should think it through long before you're ever standing across the table with that individual.
Outstanding answer. So that communication is very important. So DC1, do we have Jason Billman update still in Nashville?
Okay, good.
Geography's on point. A little bit better than my Oregon, and I got to go back to my teachers and talk to them about my history lessons with Lewis and Clark, apparently. All right. So, sir, there's a lot of challenges the Navy faces day in, day out, a lot of things on the horizon. What do you believe is the largest or the biggest challenge facing the United States Navy moving forward? It could be operationally or in any aspect that you think, sir.
Well, so it's actually a broad general concept that has a lot of different specifics inside it. And I'd just say uncertainty, or the dynamic nature of the world we find ourselves in. It's not to say that it hasn't always been dynamic, but it seems particularly dynamic these days. It's probably true. Every generation might say that. But if you think about it, we have a pandemic going on. We have great power competition, kind of rising to the fore of the discussions. We have resource constraints that are pretty significant. We have the social discourse, the necessary, courageous conversations that we need to have as a society going on in our country. So all those dynamics are working as the context within which we find ourselves. So I think that's the biggest challenge for us as a Navy, is to lead through that, is to remember, our sworn oath is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, whether or not there's COVID going on, whether or not there's a hurricane hitting outside, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say the dynamic nature of the times we find ourselves in is our biggest challenge, but I would also offer that that's also our biggest opportunity. So within these different dynamics, for example, the social discussion that must be had, this is an opportunity to make the Navy better. This is an opportunity to be an even stronger, more diverse, more inclusive force. So I think, although it was born of a tragedy, having the discussion is a positive outcome. Likewise with COVID, though that's a tragedy that is ongoing, it has presented us an opportunity, in fact, a forcing function to look at the way we do things and figure out what things were maybe extraneous before, or what things we might do a little bit differently going forward. So while they are dynamic and challenging times, within those challenges are lots of opportunities that we really need to seize.
I think that's a great point, that the opportunities that the challenges present is what we need to grab onto and take them for what they are. That's an excellent point. DC1, what do you have over there on your side in the great state of Washington?
So I was just going to comment the exact same thing. That's I think so key and so important to getting through a challenge, is to seeing it as opportunity, as how we can improve, how we can get better of the situation and moving forward. Taking, for example, we have the Sailor 2025. We have these new apps that we are coming up with to help our sailors, to help our families. So it's just on all overall how you look at it and how we move forward. So that's just a great point.
Thank you.
I wonder how many people look at and we talk about this in leadership. If you look at the problem and you're not looking for the solution, and I know there's a quote out there that in my old age I'm forgetting, but a good leader looks for the solution, not at the problem, or something like that. If not, Mike Rodney, circa 2020, just happens. All right. So we do have a lot of people on, a lot of new faces that I haven't really seen. Daniel Stewart, Melanie Ricchetti, I'm messing that up. Vanessa Carter. So outstanding across the board.
Vanessa Carter is actually my fraternal twin sister. So Hi, sister. Thank you for tuning in.
Hi, sister.
So wait, you did trick us the other day with your question about twins. You do have
I did a poll. Sorry, I did this poll on Instagram, and it was like, hey, what 3 questions here are true? And I accidentally hit, I have a i8 BMW vehicle instead of I have a twin. So everybody messaged me. Thank you for reminding me I do have a twin.
Well, we might as well put our flaws out in public, right? So there we go. All right. So we read a lot, and there's actually saw something the other day I meant to write down, but it said that we never stop learning. It's the only thing in our lives that never end. And I like to read books or listen to podcasts and do different things. I know as DC1 does as well. Number one, are you a reader, sir?
I am, although I would say that comes with a caveat of the question of what I read. But I am a voracious reader. There's not a day that goes by that I don't read, both for work and for pleasure. It helps me spin down and think through things in the evenings is predominantly when I get most of my pleasure reading done. But I would say that I am a reader, but perhaps not a scholar.
Okay. Fair enough. So we're not going to ask you if you read comic books and things along those lines. But in regards to leadership, sir, what is the one book or the most influential book that you think you've read for leadership?
Well, so that's a tough one, right? So as any question is, any one particular book, because I believe firmly that whether it's reading, whether it's watching the news, or whether it's listening to music, you need a broad range from which to draw your own personal conclusions. So there's a ton of leadership books out there. Some books that are posing as other forms and are actually leadership books. The one I would mention is Starship Troopers. That was one of the ones that I really liked all the lessons within that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the range of the genres that I like to read, from hard science fiction, from Asimov, from Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle, all the way to things like one I just read recently is about artificial intelligence and the evolution of it, called Our Final Invention. What rather ominous title, but there's some fantastic thought pieces in there. Ender's Game, another great book turned into a movie, although I would say Starship Troopers movie was not quite in keeping with the book, but all the way to like Six Frigates, Ian Toll, so I would say dabble in all the genres that you can. But back to Starship Troopers and why I thought that was a good leadership book. Particularly for folks that are at the beginning or maybe in the middle part of their leadership journey, is it really is about that. It's gritty, down to earth, down to each individual squad level in this particular case, leadership and the evolution of Johnny Rico and others on the team, but it's mainly focused on him and how this young man. I won't give you too much of a spoiler on it, but basically comes from a privileged life and decides to enlist and then, gets some unexpected turns along the way and has some self-doubt and has some questioning going on and then finding his purpose and finding his mentors and mentees and moving out and becoming what ultimately is a flawed, but a really awesome leader. And by the way, everybody has flaws. But I liked it because I could see the path, the journey that he was on. And by the way, it was an entertaining read. So I kind of like those books that sneak up on you and then give you a message without necessarily knowing that you're getting it.
I don't know if I would have ever read the book after seeing the movie.
No, it's way different. So read the book.
So now, did you read the book prior to the movie?
I did. Luckily. So I actually knew. So the movie is not, it's entertaining, right? But it's just not, it misses out on so many of the points that the book really does a great job of articulating. And in fairness, most movies miss the mark when it comes to adapting a piece like that.
That I would agree with that. So I think the journey is interesting. I think definitely we'll check out Starship Troopers, the book. Maybe I'll watch the movie again later on.
After you read the book, yeah.
All right. So we do have a question, sir. Are you opposed to taking a quick, easy question?
No, I'm happy to take any question, easy or not.
Go ahead, DC.
Okay. Yep. So we have a question from Upton Nickel who asks, what are your thoughts on your ways to balance family life and Navy life, especially with today's challenge in our society?
Well, that's a fantastic question to which I wish I knew the answer. Because I think one of your stock questions was what is the most challenging aspect of my personal leadership in life, and it is the balance piece. I'm pretty good at telling others or preaching it, but I'm not always good at doing it myself. So I'm fairly good about getting out and getting a run in or getting on the bike or whatever. But managing the home life versus the work life, because I mean, like many people, I have several passions, right? You know, the Navy is my passion, my family is my passion, and making all that work together. I don't think there's a single formula for everyone. And I think the key in particularly in my life is having that partnership that understands and works together to make it all work. Otherwise, it just wouldn't happen. So I think that's pretty key. But balance is something that every single day you should strive to maintain, and recognize that some days you're going to be better than others at doing it. Don't get down on yourself. And there are some times when the Navy's going to need you to be a little bit out of balance, say if we're going to war or whatever. But when you can be balanced, absolutely, you should strive to be balanced. And oh, by the way, let the folks that work with you and for you see that, and they'll understand the struggle, but they'll also see you making time to have balance in your life. And then hopefully that means you're modeling that behavior, which makes it okay for them to do some of those same sort of things. Hopefully that helps, Upton. If not, please feel free to rephrase the question or ask me another one.
Thank you, sir, for answering that.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it right on. It's kind of echoed what CNP said a couple of weeks ago about his balance and sometimes lack thereof, even in his own life, as he pushes it down and preaches it, but has not always done the best in that regard.
And I promise I didn't cheat off of his exam, but I think I think you will find that to be true of most, if not all of us. And those that don't admit it, it doesn't make it not so.
Exactly.
Sir, you said exam.
Did you happen to catch the CMP show?
I did not. Although I did hear about it, and I did hear about others that watched it, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of our answers are similar.
They have been very eerily similar. So, and with good reason. And that's probably why both of you are in the positions that you're at right now. Is good leadership prevails at the end of the day. So. That's another quote that I just made up, Mike Rodney, 2021. Good leadership prevails at the end of the day. And speaking of great leadership quotes, sir, plug one for me on the segue. Boom.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you. So this is a quote I don't think you've heard, because it was only said to a group of us working in Millington, Tennessee by a now retired 4-star. And at the time I was a rising 06 major commander. I hadn't gone to major command yet. I just put on 06. And there was a group of us, and he was just chatting with us. We had gotten finished with the work of the day. And, some of us were asking questions about his experiences and his thoughts. And some of, what would you remember if you were going into major command, or what would you think about this, that, or the other? And what he said was, and I've repeated this shamelessly over the years because it just resonated so deeply with me, and I think it applies in so many different ways, is your job as a leader is not to be the cause of the storm, but to be calm within the storm. And if you think about that, whether that storm is getting shot at in different parts of the world, or the storm is actually a storm going on outside your window, or the storm is the budget battle that you're in today, your office and the people around you and that work with you will take on whatever kind of behavior whether they, intentionally or subconsciously. So if you're losing your mind every time something goes sideways, well, how do you expect the rest of the organization to act? So, and that's another good quote, actually, out of Starship Troopers. It was Captain Blackston who said to Johnny, he says, don't act scared, son. You have to show poise. Essentially, you have to stay calm within the storm that you find. So I've always thought that was true, and perhaps it's obvious to others, but I've seen some leaders that probably could benefit from that quote, and I would say it applies even at a young level. So calm within the storm, not the cause of the storm. Does that help?
That is a great quote, and I love it, and I think it puts you in a place of a leader that if you're running around frantic, hair's on fire, that's how everybody else is going to react to every situation. And I had a CO. He was a pilot as well, F-16 or F-18 pilot, and he said, "Oh, Commander Hart." But what he said was, it's much better to underreact to situations than it is to overreact. And I use that all the time.
It's absolutely true. Yep, no, I agree with that.
Take the data in, maintain your composure, your poise, and process it, and don't react off of emotion right away.
Right.
So, and that leads into that one, which is just be the calming effect in your command or in your area. So I love that quote. We do have another question, sir.
Perfect.
This is from a 10th grader in high school.
Ah, great.
Which is interesting. So we do promote this out there as well with some of our future sailors. So I don't know who young Miss Elizabeth Edwards is, but DC1, over to you.
Yes. Miss Edwards, thank you for tuning in. And her question is in regards to that she is a 10th grader, sophomore in high school, who is in JROTC, and she wants to study aerospace engineering. So she asked any best advice that you can give her.
Well, thank you for the question, Elizabeth. I appreciate that, and I'm impressed that at that age that you want to be an aerospace engineer. That is what I studied in college, and it is absolutely fascinating. And I think what prepared me best for that was making sure I was focused at your age on the math, getting the calculus and getting the math done. Now that said, things like chemistry and other disciplines mattered too, because you get into material science, et cetera, et cetera. But focusing on the math is a good way to go to prepare yourself for aerospace engineering. I would say don't solely focus on that. And this goes to a larger question that you didn't ask, Elizabeth, but I'll expand on it. Is, I advocate for folks to look across many different disciplines, because I think that when in studying the arts, you find ways that actually make you better at the sciences. Or by studying math, you can see the music, or by studying music, you can kind of see the way equations work. So I wouldn't advocate for just going down one narrow path, but keep your options wide open, particularly as you enter college. Hopefully that helps, Elizabeth. Let me know if it doesn't.
Yep. And then actually, Miss Elizabeth Edwards, thank you for clarifying that. She mentions that this advice is actually for her son, but so hopefully that does still help.
Absolutely.
Who's going to be a pilot in the Navy?
That'd be great.
I'm checking that one down. Checking that he's going to be a pilot. So
get that one over to the recruiters.
There we go. If you're in New England, Miss Edwards, I know a guy. So let us know. All right. So, sir, this has been an excellent interview. I think all your points have been right on target. Senior Chief Levy out of INTAG, San Antonio. I don't know if they've changed their name with the INTAG, but he says this is bullseye point, 100% on. So outstanding across the board. And as we do this, and we talk to different leaders, whether it was Mick Pond or even the CEO last week, Mr. Broder from Tilson, a lot of the leadership comments, you see this, the successful leaders have the same ideas, the same mindsets. Now, putting those into action may be a little bit different here and there, but it's interesting to see that all these 16 episodes now, they're coming to fruition, or they're coming together. And in fact, Lieutenant Sams just popped in, diversity officer for Navy Recruiting Command. So, sir, she would like to know.
Yes, Lieutenant Sams, thank you. It's great to see you here. Thank you for tuning in with us. Lieutenant Sams asked, what advice would you give your JO self?
Well, that's a great question, because I'm not sure as a JO I would have listened to myself. But yeah, no. So I would go back. Anybody could do this, but go back in time and go, wow, if I only knew today, what man. So probably buy some stocks of different varieties. That would probably be advice. But no, in all seriousness, and I didn't necessarily get it when I was a JO, and that's not to say that some don't. I was perhaps a slow learner, is really to sort of cherish what you have. And when I say that, I mean, this Navy, our Navy, your Navy, is a special place. And I know that probably sounds corny to some, and that's okay. I don't mind being corny. But really, at that age, I mean, I was kind of I really did enjoy it. And I really felt empowered, and I felt like, I had an aptitude, and I really loved the people in my first squadron and beyond. But I'm not sure that I really understood how consequential it was. And maybe that's okay to be young and a little bit carefree, but I would tell myself to make sure that I'm appreciating it for what it is and for the life that it gave me. So that's probably what I'd say back then. And maybe curse a little less and be a little less rambunctious. I might say that to myself as well.
Hopefully you would listen. And that's like you said in the beginning, you're not sure if you would listen. And I think that goes for all of us in our younger selves. And I've made the remark on this show before that I remember being a 19-year-old young man in the Navy and thinking, what is this old Master Chief talking to me about? He has no clue. And I know the sailors think that when I talk sometimes, like, what is this guy? He has no idea what we're going through. And in some aspects, I may not. So, but it is good to hear you say that, all that, sir. So we will open it up for you, sir, to kind of give your last piece of advice. You can be on screen by yourself, or you can stay right there. And so it's up to you whether you want to be by yourself and we'll back out, or we can stay like this. But give your advice to the audience at large.
Yeah. Well, I'm either way. I'm good with that. I'm good with being by myself or having your smiling faces. Either way, because I suspect you probably can see it either way.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all good. So, so I guess I'd start with my advice to the teammates would be this. Cherish what you have. Cherish your shipmates. Make sure that they understand how much you value them and how much you are valued by them, and that relationship, that trust, that those experiences that you're going to have together are unlike any other. I think if you talk to a bunch of retirees, they probably tell you the same thing, is that's what they remember. And they'll tell stories about bad times and good times, but what they'll talk about and get misty about is their shipmates. So I'd start with that. And then secondly, I would say, own your situation, right? So resist the temptation to say, well, leadership said I had to do that, or somebody else caused me to be in trouble, or well, this is, don't look for excuses, look for ownership, and look for responsibility. Accept it. You will fail. That's not the question. The question is what you do after you fail. You will learn. You dust yourself off, stand up, get back at it. Show me somebody without scuff marks, and I'll show you somebody who isn't pushing the envelope enough. So I would say that own your situation, and move out. The Navy isn't a place for folks that just sit in a corner and don't act. And then the final thing is related to that. And there are folks who are online probably are tired of hearing me say this, because I've said it a few times over the course of my career. And I use a baseball analogy. I didn't play baseball as a soccer player, but I understand the sport, and I think the analogy works best using baseball. And so invariably, regardless of what you do, your time in the batter's box is going to be limited, right? You could step into the batter's box, wait for the perfect pitch, swing at absolutely nothing. And you may get the perfect pitch, who knows? And then what do you do with it? And you may get on base on balls, or you may get struck out, but you're probably not going to score for the team. That said, when you get into the batter's box, don't swing at everything because your time will be very short. You'll be walking off and not having helped the team either. So when you get into the batter's box, whether it's in a leadership role or whether on your next event, step up and swing. Don't wait for the perfect, zero risk opportunity, because you'll wait an awfully long time if you do that. Don't be afraid to take what I call, disciplined initiative and risk that also is prudent, right? So those are two tenets of mission command, by the way, is disciplined initiative and prudent risk taking. So don't be afraid of that. And also don't be afraid of failing every now and again. Let's try not to have catastrophic failures, but failures due to unforeseen circumstances or due to earnestness are not career ending. So we need to move away from that. We need some folks that will lead us and not be afraid and not wring their hands when the time calls for action. So that would kind of be it. I kind of rounded it with 3 different discussions there, but I really couldn't nail it down to just one. So apologies for taking liberties with your time.
It's your time, sir, and it's been wonderful. This is an interview for you to get some of your leadership thoughts out there, and I really do appreciate that one aspect that you put in there about the prudent risk taking. And I thought the analogy of being in the batter's box. We're all in this game in the Navy for a limited amount of time. And there are times when you have to take that. You have to swing the bat. And like you said, if you sit there with the bat on your shoulder, it's either a strikeout or a walk, but you get no say in what happens.
That's right.
That's a great analogy. I'm going to write that down and trademark it for myself. But I really do like it. Did you hear that from somebody else, or did you?
No, I don't think so, unless I got it subliminally.
So
it's all about the risk, right? So it's all about that. It probably goes back to a quote I learned in college. He who will not risk cannot win.
Yes.
It turns out it's true.
So Admiral Nowakowski says, agree on the failures. And I think, as you said, the repeated failures on the same issue show a lack of learning and adapting. And then that has to be trained to and dealt with accordingly. So outstanding interview. I appreciate it. Go Cubs.
No, I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate what you're doing to bring in the best and the brightest, our future shipmates, our replacements, our relief. And I cannot overstate the value for not just our recruiters inside of NETC, but our recruit division commanders, our learning center, learning site instructors, the whole team that basically takes a civilian from the street, instills those Navy core values, gives them the education such that they are ready to fight and win the nation's wars when called upon. I can't overstate how proud I am of our shipmates that are doing that day in, day out, despite COVID, despite hurricanes, despite whatever. It's impressive, and you're part of that. So I wanted to thank you for that.
No, well, much appreciated, sir. And we appreciate you coming on today, sharing just a small part of your knowledge. And I couldn't be happier to have you on. DC1.
Yes. Yes. And so before you log off, I just wanted to share with you some of the comments and that we're getting in response to having you as our special guest, as well as everything that you've talked about today. So here we have people that are logging in saying that thank you for coming in today, and they're happy to tune in. Some are forward deploy as well. So we have an Eric who says, really appreciate all of your great advice given today. Great to hear while forward deployed that you have a great command presence. You are greatly appreciated. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience, and great advice, and a lot of thumbs up. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm humbled.
Right. Well, thank you again so much, sir. And have a blessed day and have a great weekend. And we will talk with you soon.
Yes.
Thanks,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Be safe out there.
Sir. All right. Outstanding. We're on a roll of outstanding interviews, 16 in a row. We've never not had one bad interview.
No, and everyone brings a little something to the table that is somewhat similar, but also given in a different type of insight. And it's just pretty interesting with the different analogies and stories that we hear, and it all kind of ties back together. We talk about, I just wrote down a couple of things that I just wanted to bring back up again. Tell me what you think about this. Viewers, tell me what you think about this. So we were talking about, right, taking action. But when we had discussed about being in the challenging opportunities and situations, but considering them, like how can we improve, and considering it an opportunity, we talk about also when having to deal with tough situations that involve other people and our sailors, about how important it is to be empathetic, right? To get to know our sailors, to understand nobody is perfect. And I think sometimes it might be hard for others to see that, because they may be in a certain position where it's almost like you're a judge or you're like a law enforcement, always trying to correct and make sure people are doing the right thing. But it's also really important to keep that mindset and aspect. I think sometimes we forget that we're not perfect either. We're only human, and everybody makes mistakes.
100,000%. Understanding your people and understanding people in general is vital to be finding any type of success in life, any type of success. So, Admiral Nowakowski's on here, Lieutenant JG Upton Nicole. It's actually Nicole Upton, I think.
Oh.
If I remember her name right. Somebody's screaming in the background there.
Yeah, that's my mom.
Okay, hi, Mom. So usually it's my children attacking from behind. Today it's your mother. So this has been a great interview with the Admiral. Much appreciated. It took a long time because there's a lot of stuff going on, and we're glad we could finally nail it down with him. And it did not disappoint. Did not disappoint. And I love that baseball analogy. That was good. I'm going to use that and claim it as myself.
But how about the Starship Troopers book?
I have heard before that the book is drastically different than the movie. Like the movie's a B movie, kind of campy, teenage humor-ish, right?
Yeah.
I've heard the book is entirely different. So I think that I will read it. I promise that I will definitely read this because I want to see what the main difference is. Because I did not see any leadership in the movie. It was just like the Admiral said, it was a fun movie. It's good to watch, but it was obviously if he's saying it's a good book, I got to read it. So I'm gonna read it.
Well, that's the great thing about everybody having their own individuality, because we take something differently or we see things differently, whether it's a book or a movie, and sharing that, because I actually didn't look at that so much as, even though we talk about in the movie, everybody has a position. It's like the military. It's somewhat of a leadership role, but taking his insights on what we've learned today actually brings a different spin to me as well from the movie.
100%. So are you, my friend, ready to move on to our 2 cents?
Let's do it.
You're at a wedding. So you go first.
Thank you.
My wedding present to your brother.
Oh, thank you. He says thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we talk about our 2 cents. Mine, I had something in mind earlier that I was going to mention, but this one just recently happened earlier this morning. And mine is, I'm going to start from, what is it? From the bottom line up front, right? And you're on mute.
Bluff, bottom line up front.
Yes, okay.
I was a senior chief when finally somebody told me what that was.
I learned it in an email too. So in case you didn't know, bottom line up front, that's what it means. So I would say that you have something that you can add to everybody's life that you come across, whether it's to walking down the street, catching an Uber ride, by simply saying hello and listening, actually listening. And I'm not talking about, yeah, that's great, and then looking on your phone or doing something else, but actually 110% of your attention given to that person that you, exactly, just like that. And I say that because on the Uber ride this morning over to my brother's house, we were talking to the driver, and I learned so much about him. We're talking, and he mentioned, not even knowing who we are, his son, his daughter, and a brother, they're all serving in the Navy. And his dad served in the Navy. And it was just a great conversation that we never would have known. And we're talking about, he asked for advice to the Navy family and for his kids and, anything like that. It was just an awesome conversation. And we both, I would say, were given a little bit of each other. and left the conversation with, wow, that was actually, I got something out of that conversation. And that person said the same thing, that it was great. It was great to talk to you. And that was really helpful, and moving forward and feeling great about, the family members serving in the world's greatest Navy. But just have those conversations, or just listen. So that's my 2 cents, my 1 cent out of the 2 cents. That almost sounds like 2 cents because it was kind of long.
You can have 5 cents. It's cool. Nobody really cares how many cents we have. So no, it is 100%. And I will tell you, the interesting thing about that is it gives you something to talk about. Like, it gives you something to do other than get lost in the mundane of the Facebook and the Instagram and the Snapchat and all that stuff. It gives you something to communicate with other people. So now you can take this story that you learned today and relate it to other people. And I think that all the advantages of this, one of the disadvantages of this,
right,
is that sometimes when we get in the back of that Uber or on a bus or whatever it is, we do this, and then we don't connect with that person. I'm not going to say it's 100% across the board, but I am like you. I like to say hi to everybody, and then some people look at me like I'm weird. So
yeah, no, I'm that one that I'm really asking you, and I say, and we're walking past each other, how are you doing? And I'll wait for the response. Sometimes I don't get anything. Sometimes I get good, and sometimes I get yeah, or you get like living the dream. I don't really know what that means, but something just to say.
You see this? Get out of here, bug. All right. So here's
that's my cent.
Great cent. Definitely worth 10 cents. So here's mine. I had 2 for today, but I'm just going to say 1 because it happened as we're going on air. So if you didn't realize, as we're going on air, I didn't have my uniform on because you didn't see it, because this is how quickly I reacted to everything that was going on. My wife goes downstairs. We just bought a house. My wife goes downstairs to the basement. Water everywhere. We just had a refrigerator installed, right? So I'm over there. I take my uniform top off. I'm wrenching things on the back, turning water knobs off in the basement. And this is 5 minutes before we go online. 5 minutes. She runs upstairs, gets me a new white t-shirt because it's soaked. I got water all over my face. I didn't even wipe it off. Water all over. I had to take this off because I knew it would get wet and I didn't have another one. And then I'd just be in a sweatshirt like last week with the CEO, Josh Broder, and everybody made fun of me. So I was like, oh, I got to say, so I was dealing with that literally up until I got on it about 2.5 minutes with you and the Admiral. Was dealing with the leaking refrigerator. My point is kind of twofold with this. Number one, poop happens. All right. You just got to react. We got to get online with the Admiral. I got to fix the leak. I had water all over my basement coming down from the floor here. So, and that's the joys and the, yes, I am now a DCCM. In my service record. I'm going to make my kids little DCPOs. We're going to water tight all the doors. But the other part is when you buy a house and you do stuff, and poop happens. So you just got to deal with it. You got to overcome. But it has been a crazy 15 minutes because up to that point, life was good. Like I had checked in with the Admiral and his team, and we were like, yeah. And then my wife screamed, "The basement's flooding!" And I was like, "Oh!"
I did hear that, and I was like, "What's going on?"
So then I boom, 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 ran downstairs, saved the world, stopped the flooding, flags, triangle. I think it's been a long time since I've been on this ship. So
great job.
Great job. It is. So now I get to get off of here and go do it. So the 2 things are just deal with the poop as it comes. Right. Unless you can plan to not have the poop. And then the other one is when you buy a house, it's going to happen. It just depends what it is. So, we'll see.
So all that is exactly like life. It's going to happen. It happens. And just like Rear Admiral Garvin had mentioned, when you fail, it's okay. It's okay to fail. But what is more important is what you do afterwards.
100%. So the last big set of news we have is DC1 has talked me into something.
Yes.
We were going to end the show after today. This was going to be the last show. So, because we have a lot of stuff going on. Like everybody knows that in Navy recruiting, there's a lot of stuff going on in our lives. We have a lot of stuff going on. Things are happening. But what we're going to do is come on as we gather a special guest. So it may not always be Friday at 1500, but we will obviously advertise, put everything out there. But it is as we gather these guests, we'll put everything out there. We'll talk about it. Because part of the problem, too, is, as you well know, DC1 has been Friday at 1500. Like, although it's great for the viewers and the people that get on, everybody knows Friday at 1500.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't work for our guests. Sometimes it's Monday morning at 09. So as we gather special guests, we'll put it out there. It won't be weekly. It'll be maybe monthly. So we'll see how it works.
I think it's going to work out great. And I think it's a great idea. And it's still going to be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to it. So viewers out there, if you are interested or you know of somebody that we should have on this show, because you'd absolutely like to ask them as many questions as possible or whatever's on your mind, let us know. Direct message us.
Especially if you know them personally and you can get them on. That is probably the hardest problem, or the hardest part of this is trying to do the introduction and get everything on. So Admiral Garvin has been great. Admiral Now was great. But it takes a lot of behind the scenes work with that. So Josh Broder was great, but again, a lot of behind the scenes work with that. Everybody has been, there's not been one guest we've had that's been difficult to work with. I'll just say that. And I'm not even making it up. The problem has been trying to work through the kinks to get it in the schedule for them, especially when you start talking about NETSI, CNP, MCPON, these people.
Yeah. I was going to say that McPon, he just jumped off the plane and tuned in.
And he was like 15 minutes late because he had just flown in, had to change real quick in the Pentagon, getting everything put on there. But he made it.
I'm ready, guys. Let's go.
And we extended our introduction as long as we could until we saw him pop up down below. So please, if you know somebody, let us know, even if it's a group of people or things along those lines. More than happy to get them on. And yes, poop happens, clean it up, move on. So that will be the future of this show is as we gather special guests, we'll put it out there and we'll do that. So
yep, that's right. And also topics, any particular topics you'd like us to cover, we'll be more than happy to.
So it's we always talk about very generalized leadership, right? And I know we do have one CMC that was on the USS Cole, the CMC, the USS Cole, that wants to do a topic on leadership in crisis. And I think that's one that we can probably work in if we have that CMC and maybe one other person, we can kind of get them together and move from there. So we'll go with that and kind of see how it works. So that's all I got. I got to go save the basement apparently. So.
And I got to go marry these two that are over here in the state of Washington.
Okay. You're not marrying the two. You are going to preside over.
I'm going to officiate the wedding.
The wedding. Officiate. I don't want anybody putting in an IG that you're marrying people.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for politically correcting that.
Yes. So, all right. Well, congrats to your brother and his soon-to-be. Tell your mom I said hello.
I will.
And with that, it's a bunch of booms, follows, alerts, bells, and whistles. I appreciate every single one of you. Let us know what we can do. Hit us up in our messages to this. And whoever the person who gave us the angry face for Admiral Garvin's interview on you, that was a great interview.
It was probably by accident. I actually contacted somebody who did that one time, and they're like, oh, my God, I'm so sorry. It's supposed to be a heart.
Oh, I know who did it. It's supposed to be a heart. I'll talk to you later, shipmate. Army mate. Army mate. I know who it is. All right. Without further ado, thank you guys again so much. Another wonderful show. DC1, you are the MVP. You're the real
MVP.
You make it happen, and we are.
Out.
What are you doing? Oh, I thought you were.
That was my signature move.